Alright, you guys. I was gonna release a video talking about like matchmaking Islam Makhachev and one of the most entertaining fights that he could have at 170, but I don't really feel like starting a shitstorm, going back and forth in the comments, dude. I'm tired. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night. I prepared this presentation here. I did my predictions for UFC Qatar as well that I'll have uploaded by tomorrow. I'm just trying to make something that I think will be fun to edit. So right now we're going to be talking about my favorite Golden Freddy KOs in UFC history. I always have the Golden Freddy suit at the end of my predictions, right? And I'm like, since the Yijia Weston Wilson fight, like we need another Golden Freddy's KO, right? And I haven't really specified what this means. Like sometimes fighters, especially whenever they get closed in on the cage and they get knocked out there, they hit this pose, this stance here. Obviously, you see the PNG at the very end of like the slide, but I've never really explicitly talked about what the Golden Freddy KO is, the legendary Golden Freddy KO. And it's happened on numerous occasions throughout UFC history. So I've handpicked some of my favorites from before my time watching and also during my time as a tenured UFC ball knower. So let's go through this entry by entry. We're going to be giving them a score as well out of 10. So the first fight that we're going to be talking about is going to be Ofli versus Myron Santos. This happened on UFC Fight Night. Cannonier versus Borralho on Saturday, August 24th, 2024. It happens in waves. I've noticed as I was doing the entries that I would get like consecutive fights that were happening across like a 6-month span in 2024 or in 2022 or in 2018. It happens in waves. We're on a dry spell right now. As of late, we haven't gotten a single Golden Freddy's KO since Shanghai and Weston Wilson versus Yijia. This fight though, I could only give this one a 7 because the Golden Freddy pose was very fleeting. Myron Santos gets an amazing angle on Ofli and lands a really cheeky uppercut while in a collar tie. Maintains the collar tie while Ofli sinks down and then lands a few more shots as well, subsequently completely knocking this guy out. And he's holding the Golden Freddy pose, just balancing on his limp ankles, as you see there in that photo, for about 4 seconds or so before he face plants. Excellent form, but he didn't have longevity in the position, so I can't rate it any higher than a 7 out of 10. The same thing kind of goes for this knockout. Paul Craig versus Kyle Borralho at UFC 301. This happened on Saturday, May 4th, 2024. Again, very close in time proximity to the other knockout. Kyle Borralho knocked this man, Paul Craig, out real bad. He landed a blessed left hand up against the cage. Paul Craig was slumped in this position for a little bit, though. And then he ended up falling over that shoulder that he's leaning on there. And then he just kind of face planted as well. But we did get a little bit of droop time as far as the Golden Freddy's KO goes. And the same rule of scoring applies. It wasn't perfect form. We didn't have a permanent Golden Freddy pose, but he punctuated it well. This is good form here. And I mean, the still is really all that matters as far as the reproduction of this moment. It gets a 7 out of 10 for me. Next, we have Lee versus Gillespie at UFC 244. This happened on Saturday, November 2nd, 2019. All right, so here's the deal with this one, right? As far as like form goes, is it exactly the Golden Freddy pose? No. But is it close enough? Yes. He was sitting upright, and Kevin Lee kind of ruined it as well. He could have walked this off, and we could have just had this man in the suit posted up against the fence. But he had to land a follow-up shot. It was super necessary. This was honestly an early stoppage, too. The ref should have definitely let this one go on. And he took him out of the suit after he had placed him inside of it. And look at this strike and the way that his head is like, the molecules are reverberating and the light is just twitching around the head kick that led him to enter the Golden Freddy costume. It's not perfect. I can't go any higher than a 7 out of 10, but this kid has moxie. Another notable moment of a Golden Freddy's KO occurring in the UFC is Pete Rodriguez versus Mike Jackson. Mike Jackson is one of those names that just sounds very vaguely familiar. I for sure watched this guy fight. But other than a moment like this, which I honestly had to refresh in order to remember, I don't remember any of his other fights in the UFC. I'm sure I did watch him fight at a certain point. This knockout happened on UFC Fight Night, Grasso versus Araujo. I can't believe that those fighters at one point headlined a fight night. My goodness. The event took place on Saturday, October 10th, 2022. Pete Rodriguez had this man doing some really weird looking head movement on the cage, and then he fires a knee right up the middle, catching Mike Jackson on the jaw and forcing him into the Golden Freddy suit, and he's hitting that pose real nice. Look at him. Look at the way it is, like his left leg is all slack right there. And he's just supporting himself on the weight of his right foot. And that's after follow-up shots too. I think that Pete Rodriguez is going to land one more in the left photo there. But I mean, this is astounding for him. I was honestly a little bit too critical of scoring this one. A 7 out of 10. It definitely could have been an 8, maybe even a 9 out of 10. Mike Jackson went properly into the suit, and he's rocking it. The next entry that we have is Robocop versus Jordan Williams. Jordan Williams, another one of those fighters where it's like, I for sure watched that man fight on the live event in the UFC, but he just fizzled out, and like now I don't really remember any of his performances. Other than this one, but moments like this are going to live forever. Before he was Robocop, he was Golden Freddy, and he hit that pose on the Dana White's Contender Series in the year 2020. This happened on Tuesday, September 15th of that year. It happened in phases, right? On the far left of the screen here, we see Robocop being hit with the shot that makes him aware that he's about to enter the Golden Freddy costume. He's like, oh man, I'm finna pose, ain't I? And so that follows up with him eating another shot off of this jab that landed, and then he assumes a position. But the reason why this is a 4 out of 10 and not any higher, even though spiritually behind the referee, we definitely got a good Golden Freddy's pose, it's because the referee blocked it. He obstructed. And so did Jordan Williams to some extent. Sometimes you get a Golden Freddy's KO in the octagon, but the fighter that notches the finish, they ruin it for all of us in our viewership by obstructing the view of the suit. This is just one of those instances. Robocop, he didn't do anything wrong. Jordan Williams didn't do anything wrong. In the event that it is like this, they should just let the fight continue. So, and maybe like sit him upright too, just so that we can get like a good picture. It's insane to think that Robocop is about to become ranked in today's middleweight division, and he was just getting slept by this dude who like did not last in the UFC like 5 years ago. It's crazy how this guy doesn't even look any younger for this being a photo from 2020 as well. Robocop truly is a Benjamin Button type individual. My favorite knockouts to go over in like the Rolodex of all the different knockouts in the UFC are the ones that involve fighters who you've never heard of prior to actually watching the clip. This is from 2017 here. UFC Winnipeg, Lawler versus Dos Anjos. Rafael Dos Anjos won that main event too by decision. Saturday, December 16th was whenever this fight happened. Nordine Taleb versus Danny Roberts. And I really do appreciate these moments here. The moments where it doesn't happen all in one fell swoop. The fighter, he gets notified by absorbing a really big land that, man, I'm about to go into this suit. I'm meant for this pose. It's chosen me. This moment has chosen me to get inside of the Golden Freddy costume. And subsequently, they just play their part. But the thing that makes this a 5 out of 10 as opposed to anything higher is that Danny Roberts did resist entering the suit so violently. The ref was there. He tried single-legging the ref in a last-ditch effort to not go into the suit. That act right there signifies, don't let me go. I don't want to get into the costume. You must get into the suit. It's chosen you. You are the chosen one. It's your destiny to enter the costume, and you're holding it up by electing to grab onto the ref and try to prevent yourself from letting it happen. Absorbs a beautiful high kick. A stressed look on his face signifies that he's meant for the suit, and then he eats another strike on the follow-up, and he's disoriented, but he's still with it enough to try and not enter the suit, and he needs to just let it happen. That's the reason why this is a 5 out of 10. A prime example of this, and it really pains me to make this like reference for this list, but there's no way that I could do this without mentioning Mckinney versus Ribovics. With as much as I like Terrence Mckinney too. Terrence Mckinney is one of I love Terrence Mckinney. I love the way that he interacts with fans online too. This is like one of the best fighters whenever it comes to fan interactions and social media as well. And I'm supporting him to beat Chris Duncan too. I think at UFC 323 he's fighting. But I mean, I gotta talk about this still. This man got put in the Golden Freddy suit, and he was happy about it. Look at how he's smiling there after absorbing a head kick, getting shadow realmed, and put inside of the costume. Absolutely beautiful. Like, enough to make a grown man cry. Just as he's smiling in the cage, I shed a few sad tears and then happy tears. This knockout gave me secondhand joy. Watching someone get knocked out so viciously that they get happy is a rarity as well. And we just saw it happen in the Leon Edwards fight versus Carlos Prates. You know it's a good one whenever they just start cheesing. Cheesing, happy, smiling dog. Cheesing, happy, smiling dogs get treats. They get put in Golden Freddy suits. This might actually be, I'm not sure if I've called it before. This is for sure our first 10 out of 10 entry here. It doesn't get much better than this, ladies and gentlemen. This is honestly a close one too, but the angles as well, it didn't leave me as fulfilled as the other still that we got from the knockout that was produced in the Ribovics Mckinney fight. We have Jake Matthews versus Andre Fialho. And it's funny because Andre Fialho used to be one of those guys who was knocking everybody out. Him and Alex Morono kind of had the same character arc of being like up, really up, and then coming down, you know? They even have shared opponents that they both have knockouts over, I think. But yeah, in this fight, Jake Matthews absolutely spun Andre Fialho's jaw like a frisbee. But on the shot that knocked him out, there was too much obstruction that was going on. We needed the high angle to actually get the full context of the Golden Freddy pose. And it's there. You just kind of got to look for it. And you had to like brace yourself as well. I was sitting at the edge of my chair waiting for the replay. And then for them to pan the angle so I could see like what position he was sitting in. And it was definitely a Golden Freddy's pose, but it wasn't a clean one. Not at least the cleanest. I would still give this an 8 out of 10. Definitely worth a mention here. This is a problem. I feel like we need more cameras in the octagon to capture the essence of the moment of the Golden Freddy pose. Because whenever it does happen, the guys who are forcing their opponent into the suit, they're blocking our view of being able to see their handiwork. And honestly, it's kind of a buzzkill. Or the ref who's just plainly trying to keep somebody from entering the costume. And that's not something that I'm down with. So we need more cameras in the octagon. This could have been an amazing moment here. It had all of the setup of a lovely Golden Freddy's pose. But we just didn't. I feel empty looking at what we have in the bottom right corner of the screen. Price absorbs a really big shot at range. A beautiful left hook. He's like, uh-oh, twin. I'm about to go up in that suit, ain't I? And it's like, yes, sir, you are. Brace yourself. Eats another shot. Goes down. And whenever the fight is called, you have all about 0.5 seconds to see him in this pose before they pan the angle. And then cut to another shot of the octagon, which is Abdulrazak Al Hassan celebrating in the middle of the cage. And you see Nico Price still in the background of the octagon, right? And he's slumped. But I need to see this man sitting down. I need to see this man stand up like he's about to crash my game. Like my game, and I have to restart it. That's elite ball knowledge right there. This was an entry in our top spinning back fist KO video as well. This is about a 7 out of 10. It gets style points. I was going to rank it lower, but I mean, it's a spinning elbow KO. And Danny Chavez, he did get put into a Golden Freddy suit by Ricardo Ramos. Ricardo Ramos made me look like a goober because he actually did fight Con Ofli, and he got subbed in that fight, which, like, disappointing, right? Because they both have experience with the Freddy Fazbear costume of the yellow variety. I thought that Lightning would be able to strike twice in their matchup, but it ended up just being a stinker. Danny Chavez in this fight, though, he definitely went down to the ground. He had a seat there. I mean, that's textbook. That's textbook, but he didn't maintain the position is the only complaint that I have. We're about to get some, like, really solid entries here in a second, though. This is about as quality of a Golden Freddy's KO that I can actually, like, muster for a mention in this list, right? Anthony Johnson, peace be with his soul. Rumble, I hope he's in a better place right now looking down on all of us. He fought a guy by the name of Tommy Speer on UFC Fight Night, Florian versus Lausanne on Tuesday, April 1st, 2007. And he put this man inside of a Golden Freddy suit. And he made him pose right up against the cage, exactly where he had knocked him out. Imagine fighting Anthony Johnson at welterweight. It's definitely like something that people talk about a lot. They're like, dude, how did this guy ever make welterweight? And he didn't. He was missing weight like by 12 pounds. And they were still taking the fights, his opponents. And he was just chinning them brutally. For the 2 occasions that he was able to make weight, I can't speak to whether or not this was one of those events where he actually did weigh in at 170. But I mean, look at the way that he looks. This dude looks like he's made from obsidian. And he swung hammers on Tommy Speer. And he knocked him out really badly. And the spiritual Golden Freddy's KO is whenever you wake up in the pose. Your game crashes. Instead of you crashing your opponent's game by posing on him like that, your game crashes and you have to restart it. and you wake up and you're like, oh man, I was just in the suit, wasn't I? That was a moment that Tommy Speer had with himself upon reboot. And yeah, he was. And he gave us a 10 out of 10 moment in terms of this being an unforgettable Golden Freddy's KO. This is another solid entry here. Ilia Topuria versus Damon Jackson. This was at UFC Fight Night Hermanson versus Vittoria at Saturday, December 5th, 2020. Man, this is a 10 out of 10 right here. I would recommend that you go back and you watch this fight because there's actually a lot going on in the finishing sequence. There's a body shot that drops Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson eats like a hook on the way down as well. There's an uppercut then that lands that punctuates things. And he just in the suit. It's hard to tell whenever he enters the suit and whenever he exits it. But I mean, he spends some time down on the cage and he's stanced up. That's all I gotta say is like he's definitely hitting that pose on him. Like the next time that I take squad flicks with the gang, I'm finna hit this pose. The one that's on the far left right there. And as he was getting closed in on the cage, he definitely braced for impact. He knew that something was going down. He knew that he may or may not enter a yellow suit, a yellow bear costume. This is textbook. Absolute quintessential Golden Freddy's KO. If we're going over this as a concept in Shadow Realm 101, this is the example that I'm going to use. Ilia Topuria, this was young Ilia too, 5 years ago. Absolutely masterful. 10 out of 10. We're getting down to the end of our rope as far as picks go. This is what I mean by just accepting your fate of the Golden Freddy's KO. Trevor Peek versus Eric Gonzalez. This happened at UFC Fight Night Muniz versus Allen, Saturday, February 25th, 2023. So here's the deal, right? Trevor Peek, he was definitely gaining momentum towards the end of this finish. Eric Gonzalez kind of checked out of the fight. He eats some right hands. He goes down, but he's not completely knocked out. He did get flash KO'd by the shot that did make him sit, but he just accepted it. He's like, it's my time to go into the suit. It calls whoever it calls. And the Golden Freddy costume has beckoned me on this day. And who am I to resist? Who am I to say no? That's not meant for me. Whenever it is. I respect his game. I respect his decision to enter the suit. He assumes the position, eats another uppercut on the way down, and the fight's over. This is a buzzer beater finish as well. Trevor Peek walks off. He even had a booger dangling from his nose. This is a type of flair and exuberance that you can't teach to your average run-of-the-mill fighter. This has to be a real gamer. A real Five Nights at Freddy's gamer. Eric Gonzalez was disoriented trying to get out of the suit, and he had to take a seat again. The ref was even forcing him back down into the suit. Like, no, don't you get up yet. They're not done taking photos. And I need to see this for a little while longer. So whenever Eric Gonzalez tried to stand up and break the posture of the Golden Freddy's KO, the ref forced him back down into position and was like, no, you sit down. Respect. 10 out of 10 stuff right here. This is how it's done. There is no list comprising Golden Freddy's KOs, and we're not talking about Ngnannou versus Rozenstruik. Impossible. This happened at UFC 249, and you guys, this was my first event that I ever watched live. Gaethje versus Ferguson whenever they first came back from the pandemic. Imagine how this would have made me feel as a guy who had been indoctrinated into watching MMA and the UFC from playing UFC 3 on my Xbox, and then getting to see all the fighters that I've been using in the video game actually have fights live in the Apex where there was no noise and I could hear all of the punches land. This was magical, and it's definitely in large part the reason why I'm such an Apex fanboy, is because this is where my love for the sport started. And these moments here, Ngnannou versus Rozenstruik, 10 out of 10. Rozenstruik was glued to the canvas, absolutely flabbergasted at the thought of exiting the suit after it had called his name. Look at the way he's conversing with the ref, asking him, am I in the suit right now? The ref was like, yeah, and you're going to stay there for a little bit longer. It's dangerous to escape right now. We don't want our games crashing. The way that Ngnannou also placed Rozenstruik inside of this suit too, these moments only happen once in a lifetime. And I'm glad that everything panned out so that it was my lifetime where I got to witness this live. I'll never it was like looking at a shooting star. This level of a Golden Freddy's KO, it may never be replicated ever again. I'm sorry to get emotional, a little bit sentimental towards the end of this video, but this really does mean something to me. This sport lately, my interest in this sport has been stimulated by potentially getting to see one of these moments unfold again. And whenever I do speak about this term, Golden Freddy pose KO, I don't use it lightly. It's everything to me. I may dedicate my life into researching where fighters' spirits go whenever they enter the suit. What happens? Are they there? Are they with us? Or are they somewhere else? Destiny can be a conflicting thing, but a Golden Freddy's KO, that's sublime.